Hello, everyone. Welcome to Euphoria. We're back once again with Spinning the Yarn. My name is Taylor Navarro. I use she, her pronouns. I am a Latina woman with long brown hair, uh, black glasses, and today I'm wearing a white top with I think we're just going to go straight into what am I wearing today, because every time on Spinning the Yarn, our crafty interview TTRPG show, I wear something that I've made. So today I am wearing a kind of robe, like sleeveless cardigan that I did for a crochet along for Halloween last year with Not Half Bad on TikTok. In fact, I'm going to stand up and show off a little bit. I am wearing pajama pants and I'm not accepting criticism from the chat, but you need to see this. Like, okay, like, so we've got like a patchwork and it's got a witch's hat and a leaf and a sunflower, and then there's like a cat on a moon, and over here we've got like a cauldron and a bat and like a little mushroom down here. And also I put all my rejects on the back as well. So there's like a little ghost on my butt. That's definitely Twitch terms of service compliant. Don't at me. Um, so for those of you who aren't aware, Spinning the Yarn is our crafty interview TTRPGs show. In a minute, I'm going to introduce my guest who is with me today to do a little bit of crafting and a little bit of talking about TTRPGs and art. Very, very interesting. This is the third episode in our pilot run. So if you want to know when the next episode is going to be, make sure you follow Euphoria on all the socials down below. Now, without further ado, I'm going to say, Darcy, hit the button. Let me show off who my guest is.
Oh, hello there.
Hi, I'm talking to Khalil today. Khalil, why don't you introduce yourself for the chat?
Hey everyone, my name's Khalil Thurlaway. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a mixed Arab white man with dark stubble and dark short hair. Um, I am 1/5 of Science and Sorcery, a channel that some of the viewers here might be aware of. We do science, comedy, political, role play, storytelling. Um, And yeah, I'm really excited to just sit down with my buddy and have a chat.
Thank you. I found a way to trick you into spending time with me, and I am going to make the most of the hour that we have. Um, Also, thank you everyone for all of the compliments in the chat about my crochet thingy that I'm wearing. Much appreciated. So today I'm also going to be working on another crochet along from Not Half Bad. I'm making granny squares to make a hooded scarf. So if like what you see interests you, go follow Not Half Bad on TikTok. I don't know them personally, but I think that she makes really good content. So Khalil, what are you working on today as my first question of the interview?
Well, I am indulging in an old addiction that I relapsed into a couple of years ago. I am painting some Warhammer.
Yes, let's
So,
go.
when I was younger, when I was like a child to early teen, um, I I really loved the kind of the customization and the creativity that you can have with painting these things, as well as the kind of the lore and the story that goes along with it.
Hmm.
Um, and then I kind of fell out of the hobby once I became a kind of later teenager, and I discovered, going out and
I
spending
thought
my
you were
money
gonna
on.
say girls, so like that's honestly a better answer.
I mean, a little from column A, a little from column B.
Amen.
But Yeah, then a couple of years ago, I got a text from a good friend of mine, and he said, "Hey man, you were in my dream last night." And I said, "Oh wow, that's really sweet. Like, what was it about?" And he said, "We had a podcast together called The Law Axe, where we delved too deep and too greedily into sci-fi and fantasy lore and dissected it through like philosophical and political lenses. And we broke up because we had a disagreement over Manscaped sponsorship." So then
Khalil.
I texted him back saying, A, that sounds amazing, let's do it. B, I'm willing to budge on Manscaped, whatever my position was. Um, And so we eventually got our act together, and we recorded, I think, like 10 episodes or something of a like it wasn't I know with creating media and content, normally the mantra is like, audience first, like you're focusing on an audience. But this was very much we were the audience for it, like it was for us. So it's
Mhm.
completely zero production, just recorded on like one mic in my living room, but just us talking about different aspects of sci-fi and fantasy lore, and getting real political, and kind of analytical about it. So we did the first 5 episodes about Warhammer 40,000 because there is so much to draw on from that. And in doing the research for that, um, we both realized that the addiction was coming back. They don't call it plastic crack for nothing. It's very addictive. Um, and so I was determined not to, end up falling into that habit of spending a lot of money on little plastic weirdos, and giving a lot of money to Games Workshop, the parent company. So I went up into my mum's attic and I dug out all of my old models, and I got out some isopropanol, stripped off all the paint, and I've been starting again from zero, and like, chopping them up and like remodeling them, and creating an army that fits with the current set of rules and the vibe that I want. And yeah, I've been really enjoying it.
This is so you've brought up our first controversy already, because so in like knitting and crochet, when you undo your work, it's called frogging. Um, and I don't believe in frogging my work. We go big or we go home, and we keep going. But the fact that you went and you just undid all of that work from your past self, um, my brain is trying to wrap itself around like
To be fair,
that
it was
concept.
very poorly done.
I
Like,
mean, you were like a kid, so like
yeah, and
that
so
makes
this is a
sense.
chance to like re-experience all of that joy, but make it something that I actually want, rather than something that I'm, gonna look at and be like, "Oh yeah, that reminds me of a nice time," but like I don't like having that thing.
That's so valid. I s- I'm already abandoning the questions that I had for you to now ask you a follow-up question, because like so you're like putting like you're cutting these figures up and putting different pieces together to
Mhm.
make what you want. Um have you ever like hacked a TTRPG system to better tell a story that you want to tell? Like in a very similar kind of fashion?
I have plans to I have plans to run a Kids on Bikes hack,
Mhm.
to tell a particular story that I wanna tell, but watch this space, sometime 2025. Um,
Mhm.
I've written, like, I've designed from the ground up, games, whether
Mhm.
that's, so I co-designed an RPG with Shamini Bundle of RP Geeks, um, for an event that I was putting on at the Natural History Museum, all about games and play and their part in our relationship with nature. Um,
Mhm.
and so the game was called New Genes, Please, and it's a kind of Island of Dr. Moreau, Truman Show, kind of interactive audience participation story game where the audience get to roll a giant dice and mutate the player characters. So
Oh.
basically, it's kind of, the players are all uh, kind of test animals in some kind of scientific enclosure, um, where things go wrong,
Mhm.
and the audience are the controlling scientists, but they've lost access to the controls over this environment, and the only
Ah.
access they have now is through a kind of gene modifying drone. So when the player characters encounter a problem that their current animal form can't overcome, they can yell, "New genes, please!" And someone in the audience will suggest a a new animal to or a new being to kind of give them some genes from. And then they roll a giant inflatable kind of d6 to determine how successful it is. So, if, for example, the player character who said new genes, please, was, let's say, a chimpanzee,
Mhm.
and they were trying to get through a physical barrier, they were trying to smash it down. They might say, new genes, please. And if the audience like member rolled a 6, then that would be something like, okay, so let's think of something really useful, like a rhino or an elephant or an ant, maybe to crawl through or something. Um, if it was kind of middling, then it'd be something that, kind of helps, but has maybe some downsides. And then if it was like a 1, then you might end up with, I don't know, something like a something completely useless for traversing a wall, like a
A duck.
yeah, a duck. Well, not one, maybe a chicken, because a duck might be able to fly.
Oh yeah, ducks can fly.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe a chicken or something.
Oh yeah.
So then you would become part chimpanzee, part chicken. And so by the end of the game, every single player character is like a lobster, sloth, chicken, shark, butterfly, jellyfish. Or
Incredible. That's absolutely amazing. And for people who are like in the chat who are obsessed with this game idea, not naming names, um, where could they find this?
I believe Sharmony was going to upload the rules somewhere. I'll track Sharmony down and ask. But RP Geeks have done a couple of live shows in the past where they've played the game, and
Mhm.
also Science and Sorcery did one at the big conference. But I'll chase up Sharmony and check whether she did upload it to Itch. Um, but
Okay, so
it'll
for
either be
everyone in the
available
chat
now
then,
or soon, and so I'll get the rules either uploaded on and posted on my Blue Sky. Doctor talks a lot on Blue Sky, or it'll already be up. It's called New Genes, please.
okay, so make sure you're following Khalil on Blue Sky and also EU4 because when we see that, we will make sure to like repost it so that way people can find it. I've just received word that the producer's checking to see if they can find it right now. um, but that's but that's really interesting because that is a game that how do I want to phrase this? It has almost like a silly premise, but actually speaks to like animal testing and genetic modification and all of that stuff, like as like an underlying and like ever present theme throughout.
Hmm.
Um, and that's really kind of interesting when we think about like creation and art, because at the end of the day, like painting minis is art, like crochet is art, and TTRPGs in both design and performance are an art form. So hang on, let me get the phrasing of my big baller question. Um, where has it gone?
Was that the question? Where has
No,
where has art gone?
yeah. So I guess the question is then like doing things with intention and purpose. Like I guess my first question is, do you agree that like TTRPGs in both design and performance is an art form?
Yes, absolutely.
And
Um,
like,
it is it is creation with purpose. It is it's interesting because it's a collaborative art form as well.
mm,
Um, it's and so you don't get that kind of auteur thing that you get with some forms of art. And I think that's really beautiful because the end product, whether it's a performance of an RPG or it's just a game that you're playing without an audience, the output you never have 100% control over.
mm,
Like, I can paint my weird little guys and I can paint them however I want. And as long as I've got a steady enough hand and the right paints, I can make them look however I want.
Mhm.
But with a communal art form like role play, you have to surrender a little bit of that control, and I think that's beautiful. Um, and I think it's something that is also transferable to the rest of life. Like
Yeah.
learning that you can't always have full control.
Mm. I completely like, yeah, I get that. So when you're making like when you're designing TTRPGs like this, do you go into it like thinking, I am making a piece of art here, this is for utility and consumption? Or do you go into it thinking just about like the TTRPG itself or just the performance itself?
It's funny because for New Jeans Please specifically, we were designing it for a specific like performance, a specific event, and so it was very much focused on that one performance, and then it then went on to have a life afterwards.
Mhm.
But in the development process, we were thinking specifically about the space it was going to be in, and the audience that were likely to be there, and what we were trying to achieve with it, and how did it fit into the wider kind of the wider event as well.
Mhm.
Um, and when I've designed like board games, that has always been as a kind of commission for researchers. So a researcher will want to try to communicate their science and their work in a way that's accessible to maybe a family audience, or to people at outreach events or to community centers or whatever.
Mhm.
um and so it's always been designed with purpose in mind, rather than, oh, I just want to make a cool game, which is a completely legit way to design a game,
Yeah.
just wanting to make a cool game. um but I'm yet to experience game design from that perspective.
So you would call these games, so would you, as the creator, call these games art pieces?
Interesting.
Like maybe not at the time of creation, but like
Hmm.
now looking back on it with like the lens of this conversation in mind, would you call them art pieces?
I don't know if I would, and that's not to demean them. um I feel like they are artistic tools. I think the performance, the story is the art. um but then, is there an art to making artistic tools? Like,
Oh.
is a paintbrush a work of art? Like, it could be if it's designed in a certain way, if it's designed with an artistic approach in mind.
Mhm.
I don't know. That's a
That's a
really
valid
interesting question.
answer. That's a very valid answer. You know, I've thrown the deeply philosophical question at you. I'm gonna backtrack and make something easier for you to answer now.
Well, when you were talking earlier about kind of a mixture of silly and serious, one of my main kind of axioms, one of my main guiding principles in my work and in my life, really,
Mhm.
is you got to have a bit of silly in your serious and a bit of serious in your silly.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Warhammer 40,000 is absolutely both of those things.
Oh,
Um,
is that so?
yes, it is immensely silly, but it is also very serious and grim. So
Mhm.
it came about in like the late 70s, early 80s, as part of that wave of kind of British punk sci-fi that includes like Watchmen and Judge Dredd and stuff like that. The kind
Mhm.
of reaction to Thatcher and Reagan. Um, and uh, it's interesting seeing how since then, since kind of the distance between the context of its creation and now has increased, it has lost a lot of that ideology and that kind of punkness, and it has kind of it's kind of become in some ways unironic fascist propaganda. Um,
Oh.
because in the universe of Warhammer 40,000, basically there is a galaxy spanning um, fascist human space empire.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are lots of other kind of galactic civilizations of different species, like there's kind of like orcs in space, there's elves in space, there's like ravenous hive mind alien bugs, there's uh,
Oh,
kind
that
of
sounds kind of familiar.
pseudo Egyptian skeleton robots. There's all sorts.
Yeah.
Um, but there are the tagline is, in the grim darkness of the far future there is only war. So
Mm-hmm.
there are explicitly no goodies. But um, the way that the fiction is presented a lot of the time makes it seem like the fascist human space empire are the quote unquote goodies. Um, so, like for example, there is the God Emperor of mankind, and in during Trump's first run for president, there some of the memes that were going around were like his face superimposed on this golden armored body. That
Mm-hmm.
golden armored body is the God Emperor of mankind. So, like, whether or not Games Workshop, like, you know, Games Workshop, the parent company, have explicitly put out like a couple of statements being like, there are no goodies in Warhammer 40,000. Like, please stop thinking that the Empire is cool. Um, like, whether you say that or not, like, you have still created the conditions for your product to become fascist propaganda. So I don't
Mm.
know. I think they could have worked harder on that.
That's fair. There always, I think, comes a point where the art that you create kind of, like you said earlier, like it kind of spins out of your control. Like it becomes more than just what you create because it's so open to interpretation. Um
Mhm.
and stuff like that. This is not me defending like Games Workshop by any means. This is just me like thinking about what you've just said, and how it kind of relates to the conversation that we've been having. Um Damn, I knew this was gonna get deep. I knew a conversation between us like this was gonna get really deep. Um,
Well, so part of the reason that I collect the faction that I collect is because, part of it is because I was always a little kind of goth kid on the inside, um, and part of it is because they are the most diametrically opposed to the fascist space empire. Um,
nice.
so these are former super soldiers of the fascist space empire who
Ooh.
rebelled against it in a galaxy-spanning civil war. Um, but because there are no goodies in this universe, it had to be that that was because they were corrupted by these evil space gods that we don't have time to get into. But it does mean that I get to make kind of,
I
you
was
know,
gonna say, can you
cool,
show us?
cool little kind of guys in armor. Um, but
Nice.
like I get to make the evil gothy version.
Can you like put the mini like a little bit higher? Yeah, there we go.
Is that focusing okay?
Yeah,
So this is a master of executions, hence the severed head and the axe.
I think that looks so cool.
Um, but like they also get, because they were, possessed by these evil space gods, they also get things like demon princes. So this is for anyone who's into 40k watching, this is not an official model. This is from uh Mercia Miniatures, I think.
Oh
But yeah, this
wow.
is a woolly rhino cyborg guy that I have turned into a demon prince.
Incredible.
And even their vehicles uh get
Do you have
tainted by.
vehicles?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So they have like tanks and stuff like that. But this is one that I made myself. I said that the modeling part was kind of my favorite part. So this is called a defiler.
Hello?
So let's see if we can get him in focus. Let's get my face out of the picture.
Oh
There
my
we
goodness.
go.
There he is.
So this thing is part demon, part tank, part
Oh.
robot.
Mhm.
Um, and the official miniature for this thing is one of the ugliest miniatures that Games Workshop makes, and is in dire need of an update. So I thought I could kill two birds with one stone, have some fun, make something weird and unique that only I have. Um, and so yeah, I made this little guy. I think yeah, probably one of my favorite models that I've made.
That looks really, really cool.
But at the moment, I'm for tonight, I'm going to be starting this Demon Prince, and I'm going to be trying to finish some of these some of these Chaos Space Marines. So I'm trying to do a slight glowy effect on these pink bits.
Mhm.
So that I undercoated them white, and then I've been going to be layering up kind of a pink wash and some white highlight, pink wash, white highlight to give it a bit of a glow.
Ooh, that's very, very cool. Well, while you focus on that, I would like to backtrack quite a way into the conversation. And the first question I probably should have asked you after, what are you working on? So you mentioned about how like you were quite young when you started like mini painting. Where did TTRPGs come into it? Like, so when did you start playing TTRPGs? When did you start like making board games and designing and performing? Like, what does that timeline look like in reference to like your painting?
The first if the first game, I guess the technically the first game I ever designed, me and a friend found an old Risk set in his parents' house when we were like 10, and we couldn't be bothered to learn how to play Risk, and so we just took all the pieces out and invented our own game of like giant epic battles up and down his staircase, um, really getting in the way of his parents. Um, but we
Incredible.
made like rules and mechanics about like, you know, movement and shooting and probabilities and things like that.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, in terms of TTRPGs, I had always been into like story-based role-play games on the computer, like the original Baldur's Gate games and things like
Mhm.
that. But I only played my first TTRPG proper like 2000 and I want to say like 18.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um a
What was your
friend
first one?
a friend got the D&D starter set. Um and so we got a crew together. We were all kind of learning as we played. Um I I started watching D&D shows, so I started with obviously Critical Role, then moved on to kind of more I don't know, stuff that I think suited my storytelling and story enjoyment style bit
Mhm.
more. Um and then I pretty much entirely played D&D for yeah, a few years, and it's only in the last couple of years that I've really been getting a huge amount of enjoyment in playing other systems. And it's not because D&D is inherently bad or anything. It's just that there are all sorts of stories to tell,
Mhm.
and they work differently. Like
Yeah.
the not everything needs to be so combat focused or um, so yeah, integrated around like encounter role play.
Mhm.
Um, and it's really beautiful seeing all of the kind of flourishing of the TTRPG scene. And like I know stuff is hard for the entire creative industries at the moment, but the amount of creativity and the ways people can use both the creation of the game and the storytelling through the games
Mhm.
to explore like really important and interesting topics is awesome.
Yeah, no. I think D&D is a very specific kind of like artistic tool.
Hmm.
Um and sometimes like the stories you want to tell are you need a different tool.
Hmm.
Um and so I completely like understand and respect. And personally, like D&D has a very special place in my heart, but like I do enjoy playing other games and that's okay too.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
but like, so for example, um, not to plug something else on Euphoria, but to plug something else on Euphoria. You and I played in Star Taker for the summer of
Yes.
sci-fi last year,
That was
which
so
is
much fun.
yeah. So that was a scum and villainy game, um, and I don't think that we could have told that story like with a system like D&D. Like
You would have
sometimes
had to hack it so heavily that you might as well just play another system.
Exactly. And like being able to tell like an anti-colonial like rescuing your artifacts like from your culture's story like with an all POC table like that, even though we were all being silly doing heists in space, was actually that was art. We were creating something with intention and purpose. And we made
Yeah.
something so beautiful. Like I often refer people to that last episode that we did because like I think that was like one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
The whole process of like, you know, preparing and playing and recording that game
Mhm.
was really, really quite special. And it was really, and I completely agree that it would have been very hard to tell that story with D&D, especially because so much of it was about like culture and background and ethnicity and origin and identity. Um,
Mhm.
D&D can get a little bit weird about those things, you know.
Yeah,
The
it's
fact that
like
you
a
start the
history
game
with
by picking a
anything
race and
that's
a
been around
class.
for a while, you know?
Yeah, I just whenever a couple of times that I've been explaining D&D to friends who don't play TTRPGs, when I say that you start by picking a race and a class, people are like, ew.
Yeah, I
Can I be like white and rich?
look, we all wish we were white and rich. No, that's not true. But I do wish I was the rich part.
Right.
So hey, sponsors, come and give money to EU for it so we can be rich, please. If you're out there in the chat, we would like money to tell art, to make art, to tell incredible stories. Um, and I think that I can tease because this is my show and I've got you on as a guest specifically. That you and I are going to be making some art together on Euphoria this year.
Yes. I'm
uh,
so excited. And again, this is like a game system that is so unique in its approach.
hmm And we're telling a story with like such care and intention, like even
Hmm.
down to like we're currently in pre-production, so I can't say too much. But the way that I have kind of been doing my creative consultancy job to direct the vision of how this is going to look and be presented when like the episode airs, it is like this idea of this is like less of it's still an actual play, but it's like a high art piece
Yeah,
in like
it's a
the production of
production.
it. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that that is so wonderful because we don't treat TTRPGs like TTRPGs are play, yes, but you can make art in play,
Hmm.
and like play can be art. Like,
And it's the type of thing that like you can, and you know, it is completely valid and fun and worthwhile to um to play TTRPGs, whether that's for performance or otherwise. Play them, with a kind of relatively casual level of kind of uh, production input or like effort, and that can be a really valuable and wonderful experience. And at the same time, you can also be like, okay, how cool can we make this? And
mm,
it takes more effort and it takes more time and more care, um and you get something proportionally cooler out of it. And again, that's not saying that that is a better way to do it. It's
you
just,
need both. You need
yeah,
both
right.
ends of the
You
spectrum
can make a
and
quick
everything in
meal or
between.
you can make a banquet.
Mm. Like, and I think that is very, very important when we think about TTRPGs in terms of like design and performance, is that, we need to have every like kind of end of the spectrum. We need like the
Hmm.
people huddled in one room around a single mic, and we need like the critical role dimension 20, like, like quality of games because different things are going to speak to different people, just like art speaks
Hmm.
to different people. Um, like you need to have it all, like because there's going to be someone out there who wants that one specific thing, and then when they find it, like they explode with excitement. And I'm talking about me specifically with God Killer Balance. Um,
Subtweeting yourself.
I'm substituting myself, but also with like another show that was on EU for it, which was Darling You're a Haunted House, which was a one shot for Black
Oh,
History
I've
Month.
been meaning to check that out.
You need to check it out. Like I'm being 100% deadly serious. Like Ren plays a like sassy, introspective haunted house. Um and it's so funny because like both like you wouldn't think that those are two personality traits that go together, but like Ren just pulls it off seamlessly, and it tells like this beautiful story of like the passage of time and loss, and gain, and it's wonderful. And it just, when it's just like, oh, this brought something to my brain that it desperately needed. And I
And
think
the
I
type of
see
thing that you
that
didn't know it needed until it
exactly.
hit you. Yeah.
And that's like something that sometimes happens with TTRPG systems, um, as well, that I find is it's just like, oh, I come across something and I'm like, this is incredible. I'm plugging a lot of stuff today, but with the way that we think about and the way that we're having this conversation is like a very communal, like you get inspired by other things. So like,
Hmm.
um, there's a game coming out. It's on Kickstarter right now for Zine Month called Mum Chums, and that is a game about parenthood that I didn't write. I love that. Cause but like this idea of like telling a story, and like having like a hot drink mechanic embedded into the game, and just like really reflecting that kind of experience is something that I think is so desperately needed by like a very small subsect of like the wider TTRPG community.
But it's the type
Um,
of game that, like, and the type of story that, both in terms of devising the system and kind of telling the story, is so rooted in experience,
mhm.
you know? Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't write a game about parenthood as not a parent. Like,
Mhm.
to get to have that kind of meaningful and authentic feel, it has to come from something real.
Yeah, I get that. Like a lot of my games do come from like something real, and a lot of your games like coming from like real science as well.
Hmm.
Just kind of different vibes of real, I guess.
I think that's kind of universal thing about art.
Mhm.
Um, and it is a little bit of a cliche. People say it a lot, but actually, it's true. Like, to make great art, or the fundamental thing that you need is genuine expression.
Mhm.
It's like is it Dead Prez? It said, "If I feel it, I feel it. If I don't, I don't. If it ain't really real, then I probably won't."
That's good. I like that you were able to pull all of that like out of your brain. That's fantastic. That's a really
There's a
good quote.
catalog of hip hop quotes in the back of my head that just occasionally, unbidden, just whoop.
No, this was at the perfect time. Um, right. We're getting too deep again. I'm gonna pull it back. I'm gonna pull it back.
Okay.
Um, where have my questions gone?
I mean,
Okay.
I've just been trying to get this fur color right, because
Yeah.
I ummed and ahed for ages about what color to do the fur on this woolly rhino demon, and I thought about making it like albino or like super dark, but then I thought, I don't know, I'll go with the classic woolly rhino depiction of like that kind of reddish brown,
Mm.
um, because the rest of the model is just so crazy that
Yeah.
if I can make some of the visual messaging very simple, then the fact that it's got like a gun for an arm and like a giant axe, and they even modeled. Okay, no, wait, is this TOS acceptable? They
I
even for
don't
some
know.
reason modeled. So it's wearing a loincloth. Um, let's just say from the back you can tell it's a male rhino.
No,
They
that's not TOS compliant. However, I am now just gonna take what I call a quick break, to get my brain to process. They really?
sorry, I didn't mean to derail. It's
No, this is perfect.
it's relatively modest. It's not like it.
Really? Go big or go home. If you're gonna
Well,
do it.
it's shall I say it's the two veg as opposed to the other part of the meal. Um,
Oh no, I did my real laugh on stream. Right. Well, that's it. Thank you everyone for
busted.
coming. No. Right. While we're in like a silly while we're in like a little silly mood, uh do you think that any of your TTRPG characters like craft? Like have you had any of them be like artists or like crafters or like people who create?
Hmm. Thinking about. Okay, so there was. I guess there was one who would probably consider what he did art. The Dread Necromancer Alan.
Your Honor, I love him already. Please tell us about the Dread Necromancer, Alan.
So he was kicked out of wizarding school for practicing necromancy, and he's not bitter about it at all. Not at all.
No, why would he be?
No, but he is, eventually going to raise an army of the dead and march on his old school, but just for completely normal reasons, not because he's bitter at all. Um, and he used to name all of his zombies after like in with scatological names, like Fanny and Roger and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he would have probably considered his necromancy art. I did play ah, sweet Lopez. So I played a warforged artificer called Lopez, Susan Lopez. And he was the sweetest baby. So I joined a campaign of D&D halfway through. So
Mhm.
everyone was level 7 already, and they had just taken ownership of a walking dwarven land ship.
Ooh.
And so I was thinking about how I could kind of integrate into this party mid journey, um, as in the middle of the journey, not an AI tool. Um, and uh, I thought that I could be the ship's baby. So what happened is at the beginning of my first session, the crew found me in the engine room, kind of birthed from the core of this dwarven land ship. And basically, Lopez's entire kind of purpose was as a larval form of this land ship. And so basically, the mythology I constructed was these machines. Um, they they start off as this kind of larval humanoid form, and it goes and experiences the world, and tries to A, become more powerful, and B, tries to find out its purpose. And once it finds its purpose and gains enough power, it will build itself into a big machine that does that thing. So whether that is
Oh.
transporting, whether that is protecting, whether that is creating, whether that is destroying, whether that is digging, something like that. Um, and as a kind of naive baby robot, um, he was always experimenting and tinkering. He he made gunpowder, because he wanted to see what it did. But for that, he was collecting the urine of his biological shipmates because, well, because for an ex- for I'm not going to say how to make gunpowder on Twitch, but um, something that you need is a nitrogen containing compound, and one way that you can get that is by using the raw material of urea and doing some chemical stuff to it that I won't say on the internet.
Don't say on the internet, but you
I
can tell me
Yeah.
afterwards.
D-
um, whoa. Okay. My first thought upon hearing this story um was a joke, which is our war forged artificers generative AI then. Um but no. Uh I love him.
I mean, like I'm sure the creators of generative AI would like to think of their creations as curious little babies that are just trying to understand the world. But
They're stealing.
yeah, no, this was more like trying to find a way that he can be useful to the world and to people around him, rather than kind of just churning
Learning
out
with
something.
consent. No, that's so cool. Um the fact that they watched your character get born is really sticking with me. I'm having a very visceral image in my head right now.
I mean, it wasn't kind of as gooey as a biological birth, because it's just a kind of a little humanoid robot falling out of a furnace, basically.
Your Honor, I love him. That's my
And
son now.
yeah, and he took the first biological kind of humanoid name that he encountered, which was Susan.
Aww, that's cute. I like that. That's fair. I do think that artificers have art in the name, and I do love playing a crafty character.
Oh yeah, because at the moment I'm playing in my home game. I'm playing a barbarian, which is really fun.
Hmm.
A posh boy werewolf. Um,
Ooh.
but like I do miss having an intelligent character, because whilst I'm enjoying playing a himbo,
Hmm.
um, I'm I know I quite like being smart.
Honestly, I get that. In my current D&D game, I was an artificer last campaign as well. And in this one, I am a battle master fighter. And
Hmm.
while
At
I'm
least they're the
currently living.
smarter fighters.
Yes and no. My intelligence is still like a zero. Um,
Hmm.
but no, I'm living in an action movie while everyone else is doing high fantasy and political intrigue, which is great for me personally. But also,
Well, because you
um,
get to be punctuation in the story.
yeah, but
Occasional little exclamation marks.
but I as a player, and just as a person, I love putting things together, like connecting dots, like doing theories, knowing things, and being able to apply my knowledge to like the story.
Hmm.
And the character just isn't that.
Hmm.
And so I really do miss kind of being like a smarty pants character. So if anyone is doing any actual plays, can I be a smarty pants character, please? Because I need to scratch the itch again. Thank you very much.
We're just recording some of the final episodes of the a long running campaign that we've been doing on Science and Sorcery called Witness to Ruin,
Hmm.
and I've been playing a very sweet cleric, and so at least I've got some wisdom there to fall back on.
Yeah, that's good at least.
But like I kind of on on Witness to Ruin, I'm playing a very nice person, um, and then in my home game, I'm playing like a bit of a jock, but like he's learning to be a nicer person. Um, but I would quite like to play a real dickhead at some point. Sorry, can I say that? I'm
Uh,
sorry.
yes. I'm getting confirmation from the producer that you are allowed to swear.
Great.
Um, it's okay. It's like after 8. I Watershed is 9, but like it's fine. There are if there's anyone under the age of like 13 in the chat, I'll be shocked because how did you find me? Go to bed, child, please.
You have
Um,
excellent taste.
you have excellent taste, but also, what? Um, okay. Believe it or not, we only have about 5 minutes left.
Oh
I
my
don't know
god.
where this time has gone. Um,
Time flies when you're having fun.
it does. Right. So real quick, rapid fire question.
Okay.
Um, if you had to make, I guess, so it says in my question, an arts and crafts themed TTRPG, but if you had to paint, like, if you had to make a mini painting TTRPG,
Mm-hmm.
like either like a game or a show, like that incorporated mini painting, um, what story would you tell, or like what would you do?
I think it would have to be in terms of mechanics, I think it would have to be recursive. I think it would have to be like there's a bit of story and then you do a bit of modeling or painting to reflect what happened in the story so that you
Oh.
update the miniature of your character. And then you go and do some more story and then you go and update the miniatures and kind of alternating like that.
Oh, that's
I think that
cool.
could be really fun.
What
Um,
story would you tell with that system?
oh, it would have to be something where like the characters do change significantly and
Mhm.
in some ways. Um, I mean, like a game that involves mutation
Oh, where have we heard
could
about
be
that
cool.
before?
Well, there's the
No, no.
I can't remember what it's called. In fact, I think the names of these games are I'm remembering them, but potentially not TOS compliant. But there's some great games from Neon Rot, um,
Mhm.
who were we met at Dragon Meet in last year, and they're all about like uh, living in sewers and
Is this the one you showed me
mutating.
after the convention?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, right,
The
okay,
one
I'm
that
with you.
Rachel bought, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I don't think those are TOS compliant. I know what you're talking
but
about though.
the folks at Neon Rot are lovely, and the games seem very cool. But yeah, I think something along those lines would be very interesting, or some kind of story where you start off like completely kind of almost isekai
Oh.
vibe, like a kind of normal uh what am I doing here type thing.
Oh no, we've lost Khalil.
And then over the course of the story, you just
Okay. I can't
accumulate,
hear or see Khalil
I don't
anymore.
know, weird
Oh,
artifacts or like
I've got him back.
mutations or yeah. So when you disappeared, could you hear?
As long as Darcy could hear, I guess.
Okay, great. So to fill Taylor in, I was saying that it could be like an isekai thing where like you start off just being normal person transported or transposed into this weird surreal environment, and
Mhm.
then over the course of the story you start to kind of integrate with the weirdness of the world. And maybe you go
Oh.
from being like in jeans and a hoodie to like jeans and a hoodie and a greatsword, or like jeans and a hoodie and one of your hands has become a crab claw, or like jeans and a hoodie and a jetpack. And then after the next story session, maybe maybe it's like a cyberpunk or a sci-fi type thing where you're getting like gradually kind of augmented or something.
Ooh.
I think it's got to be something where there's like incremental change to the character that isn't just like, oh, I found a shield, you know?
Mhm. No, that's really, really cool. I would definitely play something like that. That would be like a great in-person thing to do because like after session you could all like decompress and like debrief whilst you're like updating your minis. Um,
A friend and I had a just I don't want to sidetrack us, but a friend and I had an idea for an RPG, um, which is uh, which is partly done through the medium of a jam, like of music. So you get a bunch of musicians who are the players,
mhm.
and uh, like you take turns. Like there'll be like a bit of kind of collab storytelling, and you'd be like maybe you'll start on a woodland path, and so someone will start laying down maybe like a simple beat or like a
Mhm.
melody or something that evokes a woodland path, and people will start joining in. um and then you'll round that off, and then you get to the next bit of storytelling, and then that kind of builds up a kind of a musical layering. I think that would be really fun.
That would be really cool. And that is a perfect place to end the stream as we are bang on 9 o'clock. And if we keep
Oh,
going, we will
already.
keep going. I know this, like, I'm like, oh, yes, we don't need the show to be more than an hour tops. And then every time we kind of get to the top of the hour, I'm like, oh, we're done.
So like I managed to do some glowy bits, some pink bits, and I
Nice.
managed to do a leg and a half of this guy.
Look, you're better than me. I think I've done like two and a half. Yeah, two and a half. Like one, two,
Well, I've always
half.
found crochet and knitting kind of magic. It
Uh,
melts my brain a little bit.
I make things from literally just like string,
Yeah, right?
which is
It's nuts.
absolutely wild. But then also you can make stories literally just by opening your mouth. Um, and that to me is also magic, especially like just the way that some people like you do it. Like just absolutely blows my mind every time.
Oh,
And
right back
on
at you.
that, thank you. And on that note, thank you everyone for joining us on Spinning the Yarn. We hope you had a good and crafty time. I will be back in 2 weeks talking to my next guest, who will be announced on the socials in the lead up to the episode, and that will be the finale for this like pilot season. So if you're enjoying it, let us know and see if they will greenlight me for a second and longer season. um, Thank you so much. Khalil, would you like to do an outro and plug anything that you wanted to plug?
Yeah, thank you so much, Taylor, Darcy, everyone at Euphoria. This has been really lovely just hanging out. My name's Khalil Thurlaway. You can find me on Blue Sky at Doctor Talks a Lot, on Science and Sorcery as Nimbo Thunderchild. Also, we've got lots of very fun stuff coming up after the end of that campaign in a month or two. Um, if you like the sound of my voice, but don't like the look of my face, there are a couple of podcasts you can check out, which are Wild Crimes and Our Broken Planet, which are both nature uh, related, but all about our relationship with nature and trying to introduce a little bit of societal and political like analysis to it as well.
Fantastic. I have been Taylor Navarro. Will I be in the future? I honestly don't know. Uh, I am the creative consultant here at Euphoria, so make sure that you're checking out our content outside of this because there is some cracking stuff. Some I've had my hand in, most of it that I haven't, and it's still beautiful. So make sure that you check that out. Um, you can find me on Blue Sky at Taylor Ann NX. And that's where I do most of my announcements on the things that I'm working on and doing. Uh, it's been so lovely to have you all here. And I guess I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.